I haven't done DMT, but I know a lot of famous people that have and others. And the government since the 70s has been doing intravenous drip with it. It just didn't become popular the last 20 years by eating it. And I've talked to well-known people off record who have gone to these big DMT rituals at sacred sites, because reportedly those are like gates or places where dimensionally they've been doing sacrifices for thousands of years. So maybe the things hang around there, or it's a ley line, they're not sure. But if you go there and take DMT, they're having groups of 20, 30, 40 people who are seeing the same hallucination on it at the same time. They basically say aliens come up the steps of the pyramid, or, you know, and everybody's seeing it at the same time. They're having this.
Maybe it's not a hallucination.
Well, exactly. If this individual was seeing it, it's one thing.
Right.
But then sometimes people in the group even get attacked by these things.
Taking ayahuasca, taking DMT, taking any kind of hallucinogenic drug, which I've done, you know, as a child. But now knowing what I know, I would be very afraid that those drugs open up a portal for something to enter me.
They thin the veil. Exactly. And the Bible says pharmakia leads to conjuring and witchcraft, all in the Old Testament. And it talks about all the other tribes that were sacrificing people, and Jehovah says don't do that anymore.
Have some respect for the unknown. I mean, I'm not pretending to understand any of this stuff. And again, I've taken LSD. You know, I've taken LSD. I get it. But you know, I was 15. Now I have a lot of respect for the things I don't understand, and it is a kind of peculiar American attitude that whatever it is we don't know has got to be great.
Exactly.
And that's just not true.
Well, exactly. Our optic nerve, they've proven, picks up a lot more in the light spectrum that we see. So we have we have biological blinders so we can focus on the third dimension and not be completely freaked out by all this other stuff that's right near our dimension and kind of like a frequency bleeding in. And so exactly, you roll the dice when you do that. And all the ancients, even if you try to go to Peru or Brazil or wherever, take those drugs, they'll say, this is dangerous, you gotta get ready for weeks, we're gonna guide you through it. And I'm not saying even do it with those.
But not dangerous in a sense that it will like affect your serotonin levels or hurt your body. I mean, which is, you know, possible, I guess, also, or it'll kill you. I'm not even worried about that. I would be much more afraid of being possessed by something from outside me. I know people whose lives have gone in the wrong direction after doing that, or who've had important relationships dissolve, which is always a sign of evil. You know, God brings us together, dark forces divide us.
I have that exact same instinctive caution not to do it. I like the frequency my brain's tuned to now. And I've talked to people that do the rituals that are really into it. They say, no, it is true. Some people, you know, get haunted by spirits and demons when they take it, but you know, most people that doesn't happen.
Kind of a big risk.
Well, in high school, I took acid a few times too, and I've taken mushrooms a few times. That's kind of barely, you know, manipulates the space-time fabric. You know, the walls start dripping a little. But yeah, you take DMT or ayahuasca, which is, I guess, a longer breakdown form of it. I mean, reality goes gone.
Well, I remember flipping out on acid 40 years ago, 1984, when I was 15. I remember it very well. I'll never forget it as long as I draw breath. And I was being attacked by howling, leering, grinning cartoon characters jumping right into my face and screaming at me. And
wow.
I mean, well, I think it's pretty conventional, but I don't know. I mean, I think
I would say that's conventional. That's maybe 1 out of 100. That's still the bad trip.
Well, it was a bad trip, but I feel like that's a very serious thing.
Describe that more. Howling, leering demons.
Oh yeah, I remember I was in my bedroom. I was home for Thanksgiving vacation from boarding school, and I'd taken a couple of hits of acid on an airplane flying from New England to California.
Oh wow.
Which is obviously not wise, but you know, I was 15. I don't know. Someone handed me a bunch of acid. Carbolic acid. And I was totally fine until I got back. And then I went upstairs, and it was the night before Thanksgiving, and I smoked pot with my brother.
Oh, wow.
And it just unleashed this whole thing. Where
Did you look in the mirror?
Yeah, my brother's face turned into a rat with like this line. And I was like, wow, I think I'm flipping out. And then I spent like the next 6 hours being attacked by these figures, characters. I don't know what they were, but very, very vivid. Very, very
Describe
vivid.
them.
I remember looking at a picture in my bedroom, and I mean, I'd just gotten home after spending all day tripping on this airplane, so I was kind of out of it. But I remember looking at this picture, and all of a sudden, whatever was in the picture, like a dog or something, jumped out at me and started screaming at me and leering with like teeth and laughing in my face. And then this one jumped out there, and then all, you know, throughout my entire bedroom, these things were jumping out and screaming at me and laughing at me.
This is what I've thought and talked to folks and heard and felt. And everybody knows you're a good person. People that are already kind of worldly and really don't, and are almost to the dark side, are in it, then it's wonderful and they're your friends and everything. But if the demons pick up that you've got a good trajectory, they just hate you, and if they think they can't get you, they just want to hurt you.
It was only when I quit doing, you know, anything, including Advil, that I got moral clarity, I would say. And so I do think that stuff is a vector for actual evil, for things entering you and controlling your behavior.
And that's what word for word, as you know, the Bible says that. If you take pharmakia, meaning pharmaceuticals, and that is the gateway to hell, it says it opens it up.
Have you always believed that there were forces that you couldn't see that were real?
Like definitely something outside was telling me things. And so by the time I got older, I realized that more. And then once I started tuning into it, it then just became more second nature. And then it was kind of like just, I was getting the information, not even thinking about where, you know, not even processing it anymore.
It's only the affluent whites who've been convinced or trained to believe that, you know, the only things that are real are things that can be experienced with the senses. I grew up in a very affluent, you know, white world. But whenever I go outside that world, deal with like black people or poorer people or, you know, people from other countries, the Caribbean, Africa, Latin America, they would just say like out loud, you know, that stuff's real.
Yeah.
Like where I grew up, the only sort of poorer people were Mexican immigrants. We would always say, oh, they're so superstitious. So superstitious. But, you know,
I think it's what you said earlier. Superstition is a respect for the unknown.
Yes, exactly. What we deride as superstition is actually a description of reality in many cases, and it's also a sign of respect.
And like you said, middle class or upper middle class, affluent whites were taught in the last 60, 70 years, only believe in mainstream corporate science that's always changing every day anyways, and you're the humanist, you're God, we're going to become God.
Yes.
Ray Kurzweil said, I don't believe in God yet, I'm going to be God. Well, what an arrogant statement. Whereas realizing that you are fine, have a part of something bigger, that is the respect of it. And so that's really kind of what boilerplate Satanism is I'm God.
The only people who retained their respect for the unknown and understood the limits of their own intellect were on the fringes of American society. That the mainstream of American society just was taught, probably by design, I would think, but you just like dismiss all that stuff.
Exactly, but I was about to add a wrinkle. I think you probably, because you've been at the heights of, you know, everything in your position, and I know I've been able to see some of this. When you actually get into the ultra rich, though, and also the top artists and people, they're completely into the occult.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so
no, you're totally right. It's almost like the IQ scale. It's like dumb people understand the truth, really smart people know the truth, and in the broad middle, what do they call it, midwits?
Yeah,
they've convinced themselves that they got it all figured out.
Educated idiots.
Educated idiots. But the truly smart people I know, Matthias Desmet, for example, they're like delighted to admit the limits of their knowledge because they're smart enough. First of all, they're secure.
Was it Aristotle said, I know nothing?
Yeah, well, of course. The beginning of wisdom, as my father always said, the root of all wisdom is knowing what an asshole you are. So in September, we went across the country, coast to coast, 17 different cities on a nationwide live tour, and it was amazing. And we brought the entire staff with us, like we always do, because we all worked together for so long and enjoy traveling together. And one of our producers is a documentary filmmaker, and so he decided to make a documentary film about our trip, a full month across America with some of the most interesting people around. Different people joined us every single night. Bongino and Russell Brand and Bobby Kennedy and J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera. We had the best time, and the fruit of that is a documentary called On the Road, the Tucker Carlson Live Tour, which is available right now on TCN. On the Road, Tucker Carlson Live Tour. It is hilarious. You will like it. Thanks for watching. You can go to tuckercarlson.com for our entire library of everything we've done, and we hope you will.